Greatly respect the decision of the appellate division, and we will abide by that. We'll put up cash or bond very quickly, securities, cash or bond, whatever it is. We'll put it up very quickly, and we'll win the case.
Confident words there from former President Donald Trump, who just had a pretty eventful day in court. He got a bit of a financial break in his New York civil fraud case, but as far as getting his criminal trial further delayed, things there didn't go as he might have hoped. I'm Valerie Castro in for Gadi Schwartz, and this is Stay Tuned Now. So it's a good bet that Donald Trump woke up this morning with two legal threats on his mind: the possibility of having his assets seized if he could not meet the deadline to pay his staggering $454 million bond, and standing before a judge who could ultimately throw him in prison. We're talking about his New York civil fraud case and the criminal trial in which he's accused of using hush money to cover up a sex scandal. But let's start with the civil case. An appellate court threw Trump a bit of a lifeline today, reducing his bond in the civil fraud trial from about $500 million to roughly $175 million, and doing so on the same day when the deadline to pay was set to expire. Now, that's still quite a lot of money, even for someone like Donald Trump, who now has 10 days to put up the money. But despite that small win, things do not seem to be going in Trump's favor regarding his Manhattan hush money case involving former adult film star Stormy Daniels, as it looks like he will become the first former U.S. president to stand trial on criminal charges, as a New York judge set a trial date next month for this historic case. And we'll have more on that criminal case in just a few minutes. NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns joins us now. Dasha, let's start with the civil case, dropping the bond from roughly $500 million to $175 million. That's huge. So how is the court justifying that steep of a reduction? And now that it has been dropped, are Trump and his team confident they can put up the money for that reduced bail?
Well, Valerie, the court didn't define its decision, didn't go into details about why they chose to drop it. But the former president certainly seemed confident outside of court today that he could put up that money. Take a listen.
I have a lot of cash. You know I do, because you looked at my statements. But I would also like to be able to use some of my cash to get elected. They don't want me to use my cash to get elected. They don't want that. They don't want me taking cash out to use it for the campaign.
So sounding confident there, but to be clear, he is still on that hook for that $450 million plus judgment. The Attorney General, Letitia James, made that very clear today. What we don't know is exactly how Trump is going to put up that money, if it's going to be in cash, bonds, securities, how that's going to come to fruition. But he has 10 days to do it, Valerie.
And Dasha, let's say the team does put up this $175 million bond. How might that impact his finances for other cases and the election moving forward?
Well, Trump is cash-strapped and the campaign is cash-strapped right now. So he says he might consider funding his own campaign. He actually hasn't contributed his own dollars to a campaign since 2016. He said he was going to do it in 2020. He didn't. So it's not clear, regardless of these cases, whether he was planning to or is going to put any of his own money towards the campaign this time around. But certainly it puts a lot of pressure on him, given his legal costs on top of all of this money from this case and from others. Plus, his campaign right now is really trailing that of President Biden. He's behind. Biden has raised almost twice as much cash as the former president. So right now, fundraising is going to be critical, and his time, in addition to money, is really limited, given starting April 15th, he's going to be forced to be in the courtroom for at least a few days a week, Valerie.
Okay. Dasha Burns, thank you so much. Meanwhile, Trump was in court for the Stormy Daniels hush money case. Today, the judge set April 15th as that trial start date. It was initially supposed to be today, but it was delayed after federal prosecutors turned over more than 100,000 pages of evidence just over this past month. Trump's team argued it should be delayed even further, but the judge wasn't having any of it. And now it seems the trial is all systems go. That is, unless you ask Donald Trump.
I don't know if we're having one. We're going to be appealing right now, I can tell you that. These are all Biden trials, so I don't know that you're going to have it. I think we're going to get some court rulings. Yeah, please.
But will you testify if that trial goes forward?
I would have no problem testifying. I didn't do anything wrong.
Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Kristen Gibbons-Fenton. Kristen, thanks for being with us tonight. So assuming the trial does in fact start in 3 weeks, what evidence will be permitted? What can we expect to see?
Well, we can expect the prosecution to present evidence really highlighting Donald Trump's alleged falsification of the business records to conceal the hush money payments, particularly in the context of the 2016 presidential election. So while the judge is not going to allow the jury to view that infamous Access Hollywood video, the prosecution is still allowed to reference it or elicit testimony about it. So I would expect the prosecution to elicit testimony to establish Trump's motive through references to that video for these payments, although they, again, cannot play that actual recording. In addition, the prosecution's also permitted to present evidence of similar-like transactions, such as the transactions made to Karen McDougal and a former Trump Tower doorman. And the prosecution will likely utilize that to establish or suggest some type of pattern of practice, aiming to demonstrate that, this was not an isolated action, but rather part of a wider effort to suppress damaging stories. And this is actually going to support their narrative portraying a pattern of Trump influencing deceptive practices that are aimed at influencing the election outcome. So with this, they'll probably also undoubtedly present testimony from Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen, but within that theme, within that prosecutory context.
And Kristen, this is a criminal trial, unlike the civil trial that we were just talking about. Kind of go over the difference. And what will Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg need to do to convince the jury that paying off Stormy Daniels was actually a felony?
So, Valerie, the main difference is that in this criminal trial, the prosecution will have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So that burden is heftier than it would be than in a civil trial. So DA Braggs is going to have to establish Trump's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt for those felony charges. So this involves proving that Trump intentionally obscured those hush money payments in the business records with the aim of committing or concealing another crime. Specifically, Braggs is going to demonstrate that there was a clear motive, fraudulent intent by Trump, and the act of some type of misrepresentation within Trump's business documents that directly tied the payments to Stormy Daniels.
Okay, and let's switch gears back to the civil trial, that huge reduction in the bond. How common is it to see that, that significant reduction? And is it just because he's the former president that we're seeing such a big drop in that amount?
Well, it's not rare to see a reduction, but it is certainly rare to see a significant reduction like this. But, I don't think it's just necessarily because he's the president. I think coming up with $464 million bond is almost a practical impossibility. So I don't think that it was brought down because of that, because that is an extraordinary situation. But again, it does really underscore that unprecedented nature of that bond requirement in legal history. And just because it's the president, I don't think that's the reason that it was reduced that significantly. I think it was rather the amount.
Okay, we appreciate you breaking that all down for us. NBC's Kristen Gibbons-Fenton, thank you so much. Breaking news tonight as federal agents raided the homes of Sean Diddy Combs in both Los Angeles and Miami. And we're still learning about what exactly led to those raids, but Diddy had been accused of sexual misconduct. There's also an investigation into possible sex trafficking and the distribution of illegal drugs and firearms related to Diddy. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson has more.
Tonight, the multiple homes of Sean Diddy Combs from coast to coast raided by federal law enforcement. Heavily armed and armored tactical teams sweeping through Combs' posh Los Angeles property this afternoon, guns drawn, clearing room to room, people in handcuffs as agents made their way through the property. A similar scene playing out in Diddy's homes more than 2,000 miles away on Miami's Star Island, where several celebrities, including Gloria and Emilio Estefan and Jennifer Lopez, also have homes.
The fact that Diddy's home was raided means that agents for Homeland Security were able to show probable cause that a crime was committed and that evidence of that alleged crime would be found at these homes.
Combs' whereabouts right now, unknown. He was in Los Angeles as recently as last week. Sources close to the investigation say the raids are part of a sex trafficking warrant being executed by Homeland Security in New York's Southern District. NBC News has learned multiple witnesses have been interviewed by prosecutors and investigators in connection with the case.
The speed at which it appears these raids were conducted suggests that agents were concerned that they needed to secure evidence quickly and prevent anyone from destroying evidence before they got there.
It's the latest in a legal firestorm surrounding the 54-year-old music mogul, with multiple lawsuits alleging sexual assault, abuse, harassment, forced drugging, and the distribution of illegal firearms and narcotics. The allegations began last year with Combs' ex-partner, R&B singer Cassie, filing a lawsuit in New York. She was seeking $30 million, alleging physical and sexual abuse as well as sex trafficking. They settled for an undisclosed amount. Several other women came forward with similar accusations. Representatives for Combs did not immediately respond to NBC's request for comment.
The LA Dodgers superstar Shohei Ohtani spoke today for the first time since the scandal broke surrounding his interpreter, Ippei Mizuhara. Mizuhara, that's him on the left, was fired after reportedly stealing millions of dollars from Ohtani to pay off his gambling debts. Mizuhara responded to the accusation by saying Ohtani lent him that money. But just hours ago, Ohtani set the record straight. Here's what he said through a translator.
I'm very saddened and shocked that someone who I'm trusted has done this. So I never bet on baseball or any other sports, or never have asked somebody to do it on my behalf. And I have never went through a bookmaker to bet on sports. Up until a couple of days ago, I didn't know that this was happening. Ippei has been stealing money from my account and has told lies.
All right, some serious words there. Let's bring in NBC News correspondent David Noriega in Los Angeles. David, let's back up a minute. What exactly are the accusations here, and what was their history like?
Yeah, hey, Valerie. So, again, just to back up, like you said, the way that this scandal broke is that last week the LA Times and ESPN reported that Ohtani's name came up in connection to a federal criminal investigation into an alleged illegal sports bookie in Orange County. The details started coming out that it was about just several wire transfers amounting to about $4.5 million from one of Ohtani's accounts. It came out that Mizuhara, his interpreter, claimed that that money had been loaned to him by his close friend and boss, Shohei Ohtani. But the story wound up changing to what we heard today from Ohtani and his lawyer, saying essentially, no, that money was stolen. Ohtani had nothing to do with it. He didn't know that this was happening. As to the relationship between Mizuhara and Ohtani, it wasn't just an interpreter relationship. Ippei Mizuhara is known among sports reporters and sports fans just by his first name, Ippei, because he is so closely associated with Ohtani. He shows up at every press conference. Ohtani is rarely seen in public without Ippei by his side. They were very close friends. He was his right-hand man, his confidant, his close friend. So if what Ohtani is saying is true, that Mizuhara had this crippling gambling addiction that led him to resort to stealing millions of dollars from Ohtani, it would really be a pretty shocking personal betrayal. Valerie?
And David, now both the MLB and the IRS are investigating what happened. So what happens next?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to look out for is whether there will be criminal charges filed against Mizuhara as part of that IRS investigation, because if there are, that'll give us a lot of very reliable information about what exactly Ohtani knew and when, right? The money allegedly came out of his account. The sorts of investigations that the IRS is capable of conducting should be able to tell us, did he know that that money came out of his account? Did he have anything to do with it? As far as the MLB investigation, it will probably be a sort of a broader investigation that might give us a fuller picture, and we'll answer some questions about whether Ohtani violated MLB rules, even if he didn't violate any laws. And those are kind of the main things to look for in those different investigations, which are going to be looking at kind of different parts of the story. We don't know which will happen first, but that's kind of what we're going to be looking for as things that will add substance and really advance this story. Valerie?
Okay, a lot more to come. NBC's David Noriega, thanks so much. The crisis over at Boeing is intensifying, with 3 senior executives announcing that they are stepping down. Among those leaving, embattled Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun. This latest shakeup comes just 2 months after that door plug blowout on an Alaska Airlines flight put the spotlight on quality control failures at the company. NBC's Tom Costello has the latest.
He's the CEO of one of the country's critical economic drivers. Now under pressure, Boeing's Dave Calhoun says he'll leave by year's end. After 5 years of crisis and groundings involving 2 MAX 8 crashes that killed 346 people, the MAX 9 door plug blowout, and quality control breakdowns across Boeing.
We're going to get ahead of all of the issues that either the FAA and, way more importantly, our own people bring to our attention, and we'll get ahead of it. That will happen.
It comes as the company is the focus of criminal NTSB and FAA investigations. Last week, FAA Chief Mike Whitaker told Lester he was surprised during meetings at Boeing that their priorities seem to be production, not safety.
I think it really shows how the mindset has been on production, and I think you would have expected at least more of a show of focus on safety, and that was lacking.
Calhoun responding today.
I recognized exactly what he was talking about because I heard it from all of our own people.
Airline confidence in Boeing has also been shaken following the door plug blowout.
It makes you mad. Tom, it makes you mad that we're finding issues like that on brand new airplanes.
In a stunning rebuke, a group of airline CEOs recently asked to meet with Boeing's board, but without CEO Calhoun. Now, with Boeing stock down 26% this year, the board is making big changes. In addition to Calhoun, the head of commercial aircraft is leaving. The head of 737 production has already left, and Boeing's board chair will not seek re-election.
Boeing needs to ensure the quality control and the safety metrics that the airlines are looking for.
Several airlines today said they're committed to Boeing as it moves to buy and integrate Spirit Aerosystems, its troubled fuselage maker. In an email to employees, Calhoun today said, "The eyes of the world are on us, and I know that we will come through this moment a better company."
Okay, Tom Costello, thank you. Don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. Up next, did somebody say spring snow? Winter is not giving up its grip on Minnesota, which had its biggest storm of the season hit last night. Our Jesse Kirsch is braving the elements to bring us an update. Plus, new body camera footage from the day YouTube creator Ruby Franke was arrested. And later this hour, in the future of everything, Apple's Tim Cook is in China. He's opening a new flagship in Shanghai, but he's also got some ground to cover when it comes to Apple's shrinking sales there. That's straight ahead, so stay tuned.
The iPhone is more expensive than other phone, so I think the people will choose the more cheap one.
Welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. A Carnival cruise ship caught fire off the coast of the Bahamas over the weekend, possibly from a lightning strike. The ship's funnel ignited, and eventually a portion of it fell onto a deck. No one was seriously hurt. 2 crew members who helped put out the fire were treated for minor injuries. U.S. embassies will no longer be able to fly LGBTQ pride flags at buildings, and it's all because of a provision in the bipartisan package that helped avoid a government shutdown. It does not explicitly mention pride flags, but the package does list the approved flags that can be displayed. ChickfilA will no longer stick to its pledge to only serve antibiotic-free chicken. The fast food company says starting this spring, it will serve chicken that is free of just antibiotics important to human medicine. ChickfilA first announced the pledge to only serve antibiotic-free chicken in 2014. And the International Space Station has some new visitors today. A spacecraft with 3 crew members just docked at the station. They will join 7 people who are already on board. One of the new members, NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson, will spend 6 months on board. And there is still time to get your Mega Millions or Powerball lottery ticket if you haven't already. The Mega Millions jackpot is about $1.1 billion, and Powerball's is now $800 million. So for those doing the math at home, that's a total of nearly $2 billion up for grabs. The Powerball is first to go off tonight, with the Mega Millions drawing tomorrow night. Some 11 million people are under winter alerts today from coast to coast, all because of an intense spring storm system. Snow, rain, tornadoes, you name it, it's all there. Here in the tri-state area, a powerful storm system battered states like New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire with heavy rain, strong winds, and snow. Places like Minneapolis also saw heavy snowfall throughout the weekend, setting a new daily record of 8 inches, with more to come today. NBC's Jesse Kirsch has more from there. Jesse?
Valerie, the work week here in the Twin Cities off to a slushy, rainy start. You can see that we're still dealing with some light rain tonight in Minneapolis. And this is after we saw a daily record 8.2 inches of snow here yesterday, and there's more snow expected tomorrow. Across the plains, cars have been stranded in whiteout conditions. From Kansas to Texas, tornadoes have been carving a destructive path. And we're not done with this brutal storm system yet. Parts of Colorado, Wisconsin, and Minnesota all seeing more than a foot of snow today alone. Back here in the Twin Cities, this early spring snow for some is business as usual, literally.
Well, it's normal Minnesota, yeah. All I see is money falling from the sky. That's all I see. So it works for me.
And beyond snow here in Minneapolis, standing water could turn to ice overnight, bringing its own hazards. Valerie?
All right, Jesse Kirsch, thank you. Now let's bring in NBC News meteorologist Bill Cairns with the latest on what's next.
Well, good evening to you, Valerie. We've been watching for the potential of severe weather all day long. We're kind of in the middle of that time window where it should be popping up. But up to this point, knock on wood somewhere, it hasn't been really percolating or bubbling. The thunderstorms have held at bay. We haven't had any reports of any damaging weather. So that's great. Doesn't mean we still can't, but up to this point, we're good. So this has been the area of concern all day long, from Louisiana, much of Mississippi, into Alabama late tonight, and a little sliver there of Arkansas. And the thing is that the atmosphere was really spinning a lot. There's a lot of low-level, what we call shear. So the winds are changing in different directions, which if we get a thunderstorm to form, it would start spinning, and it could produce a strong tornado. But we just haven't had those strong thunderstorms forming. So that's fantastic. Hopefully we can get through this night with very little of any severe weather. The tornado watch has been trimmed back. It will be expiring in the next hour from our areas, Lake Charles, Alexandria, up here to northern portion of Louisiana. We'll wait and see if we get a new one issued here in areas of Mississippi, because that's where that line of storm will head after sunsets and into the early evening. And this storm system itself is still located over Omaha. It's kind of stalled out. It's slow moving. We had that, foot of snow in many areas from Minnesota all the way through Dakota and Nebraska, and now it's kind of filling back in again, and it's windy too, so blizzard warnings continue. Pretty treacherous travel throughout areas, Interstate 70 through western Kansas, Interstate 80 heading through Nebraska, and that's where we still have these blizzard warnings out. And then winter storm warnings are for much of Minnesota. And in Minneapolis, the watch had a warning had been dropped, and now we're back under winter weather advisory, because as the storm goes by, we're going to get some backside snow tomorrow, and possibly even a heavy band of snow developing here from Rochester back up to Minneapolis, St. Paul to Duluth. Some areas 6 to 12 inches. So snow, rain to snow in 3 days in a row. That's an ugly, ugly forecast. And here's how it's all going to play out. As we go throughout tomorrow evening, the storm finally leaves, but then the tail end of this kind of stalls out and develops a little bit. We get a wave of rain on it, and that'll be heading up the eastern seaboard. So as we go throughout Wednesday night, there's Thursday pouring in the Carolinas out through the Outer Banks. Rainy Thursday from D.C. up to Boston, especially coastal areas. In some spots, we'll be getting 1 to 3 inches of rain here from I-95 all the way through South Carolina, through North Carolina, Virginia, and then about another inch of rain for the waterlogged areas of the East Coast. So, Valerie, kind of an ugly forecast from the plains all the way to the eastern seaboard over the next couple days.
All right, yeah, not looking forward to it. Bill Cairns, thank you. Coming up, an insane rescue on the Los Angeles River this weekend. We'll bring you details. But first, you got to see this. 19-year-old figure skater Ilya Malinin won the World Figure Skating Championship this weekend, cementing his nickname as the Quad God. He landed not 1, not 2, but 6 quadruple jumps to clinch the honor.
The last planned quad here. 6 quads, 6 perfect quads.
If you're not familiar with figure skating, let's just say that's really, really, really good. So good, it's being called one of the best collection of jumps in figure skating history. A performance that surely left fans jumping for joy. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We've got new body camera footage of Ruby Frankie's arrest. We'll get to that in just a minute, but first, here are some of the stories happening out west that we're following. Quadruple murderer Major John Kaler had been sentenced to life in prison. He shot and killed an Idaho family of 4 in June after a dispute. Kaler told police he had snapped and surrendered himself. His sentencing does not include the possibility of parole. A mountain lion killed a 21-year-old man and hurt his younger 18-year-old brother in Georgetown, California. It happened over the weekend. The 18-year-old suffered serious damage to his face and was taken to the hospital for surgery. Officials say the brothers were antler shed hunting at the time of the attack. The mountain lion was later found and euthanized. And rescue crews rushed to save a 35-year-old woman who got swept away in the Los Angeles River during a storm. It happened yesterday in Studio City. A first responder managed to lift the woman out of the swollen river and bring her safely into a chopper. Officials say she suffered minor injuries and hypothermia. We're getting a look at newly released evidence of the day former YouTube creator Ruby Franke and counselor Jodi Hildebrandt were arrested. Both women are in prison after pleading guilty to abusing two of Franke's children. Reporter Shelby Lofton from our NBC affiliate in Utah has more.
I'm not going to step out of the house.
Step out of the house.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
We're just going to see if they'll be off. They're going to be off home.
Wait a minute, how do you come to my house?
Right there.
A little boy who managed to escape this house of horrors to ask for help led police to this home on August 30th. The home owned by formerly licensed mental health counselor Jodi Hildebrandt. The police search came after a neighbor reported a young, malnourished child with severe wounds showed up on his doorstep.
You come in, my buddy. I'm a police officer.
Officers found the child's siblings still inside Hildebrandt's house. It took several first responders to coax the child out of a closet. Their condition brought one medic to tears. Officers explored every corner of the house, including a safe room. Inside, they found ropes and bindings used to hold down the children. They also photographed a cayenne pepper and honey tincture used to dress both children's wounds on their wrists and ankles.
I'm a little nervous.
At the police station, Hildebrandt said officers didn't know the full story.
You knew all the pieces. I think you'd have a lot of empathy for what's going on.
She refused to talk to police without her lawyer, the same route her business partner Ruby Franke took.
I'll wait till I have a lawyer.
While her children were put on a 3-day medical hold at a nearby hospital, she stared at officers, refusing to answer any questions. We're under arrest right now for child abuse.
Shelby Lofton, thanks so much. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned nearly 2 years ago now, 14 states currently have near total bans on abortion, including medication abortion. And because of this, some activists have taken it upon themselves to mail abortion pills to women in those states. But tomorrow, that could all change, as the Supreme Court will hear arguments on whether to limit access to the abortion pill mifepristone, one of 2 pills used as part of medication abortion. NBC correspondent Dasha Burns has more.
In this basement in upstate New York, one group is giving abortion access to thousands in states where it's illegal. We're not showing faces because they fear repercussions.
Where's a lot of this medication going? The medication is going to all the states that the pharmacy will not send to. So I would say the majority are going to Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, Georgia.
New York is one of 6 states operating under new shield laws when it comes to telehealth, which protect providers doing this from prosecution for now.
How many prescriptions are you mailing out today? Today we're doing 112.
Dr. Linda Prine prescribes pills from New York City.
What is the scale of this operation?
So before we had the shield law, we were mailing pills to the blue states. After we passed our shield law, the first month we sent about 4,000 pills into restricted states, and now we're up to around 10,000 pills a month.
Anti-abortion rights groups taking notice.
The fact remains that just because you are sitting in California does not mean that you are not violating the laws of Florida, Texas, and 30 other states. So I think they have a false sense of security about this.
But that access in question. The Supreme Court will hear oral arguments tomorrow in a case that could prohibit prescription of abortion pills via telemedicine and prevent providers from mailing them.
What action do you want the Supreme Court to take?
We hope that the Supreme Court will agree with the 2 lower courts who have already found that it's likely that the FDA broke federal law and its own rules when it brought the abortion drugs to market.
I think what we're talking about is really ways to work around whatever scenario comes up so that we can continue to get these medications to patients.
Dasha Burns, NBC News, New Paltz, New York.
Homeowners in cities across the U.S. are reporting a rise in squatting incidents. That's when unauthorized people take over unoccupied houses or apartments that aren't theirs. Here's why it's happening and why property owners are struggling to crack down on them.
No. Do not touch me. Do not touch me.
They're the house guests no one invited.
You're trespassing. And you're harassing me.
Squatters making themselves right at home.
Out of my house.
It's not your house.
They're people who take over mostly vacant properties that aren't theirs. one New York case even turning deadly.
Police now believe the 52-year-old Vittel was killed by squatters.
It's terrifying.
Patty Peoples says she discovered 2 women and kids in a Florida property she was preparing to sell and filmed her intense confrontations with them.
I had squatters. They did $40,000 worth of damage, stole appliances.
Bye. At one point, even threatening her with a tire iron.
So you must want me to take this and break your phone.
She says it took more than a month to get them out.
How did you feel? It is, quite frankly, one of the most frustrating, unfair experiences and frightening experiences of my life. The burden of proof was on me, not the renters. It's unfair. Oh my God.
Unfair because squatters take advantage of laws meant to protect renters, often leaving homeowners helpless.
You shouldn't be trying to steal my house.
This video captured by New York's Eyewitness News has gone viral. A homeowner trying to force squatters out is then handcuffed by police and removed from her own home. No charges were filed. New York attorney Ann Margaret Carrozza says squatting cases are on the rise due to more vacant properties and the high cost of housing.
How are they getting away with this?
If they pull out a fake lease or they pull out a fake deed, now it's a he said, she said.
Don't empower them.
Flash Shelton, who advises homeowners on how to push out squatters, says to protect your home, set up security cameras.
Your best protection is basically being able to document when someone comes in.
And call police as soon as you find someone.
Please support this bill.
Back in Florida, Patty is paving the way for change, advocating for new laws to fight squatting.
What do you want to say to the squatters around the country?
The gig is up. My hope is that within another year, squatting will be a pandemic that is on the decline.
How dare you walk in here like that?
I own this house.
Hoping her story empowers others to squash out the squatters.
God.
Gone are the days when babysitting was an easy-to-come-by job for teenagers trying to make a buck. Parents are now seeking sitters who are older and more qualified for all of the important tasks of watching their kids. NBC News correspondent Christine Romans has that story.
You're too much. Babysitters Club. Hi, Mr. Radowski. Oh, no. Wednesday night, 6 to 9:30? Sure.
For decades, babysitting has been a rite of passage for so many teenagers.
Margie, how old are you? 4.5. You're on a 4.5-minute timeout.
Parents relying on young sitters before a much-needed night out.
Take good care of my baby.
And for teens, a chance, even for a bit, at real-life adulting, including earning some cold, hard cash.
My mom is paying you good money to watch me.
But these days, high schoolers may no longer fit the bill.
Look at what I found. Babysitter needed ASAP. Must be over 25 years old. Minimum education, master's degree.
Olivia Heinbaugh is a former teen babysitter who's now a mom to 3.
You were a teenage babysitter, but you mostly don't hire teenage babysitters. Why?
Because I really want my children to feel comfortable and for my own self to feel comfortable knowing that they're left with competent, capable, very experienced people. And often those people are family members or very close family friends.
Parenting journalist Donna Tatro says for both parents and teens, times have changed.
This generation of parents is really in tune. Parents want their kids to be playing with somebody that there is taking care of them. If you're in a household with teenagers right now, you know that they're not really present because they're either on their phone or they're dealing with that academic achievement pressure.
While there is no universal starting age for a sitter, popular website care.com only accepts candidates 18 and older. The gig can still be lucrative, with average pay nearing $19.50 an hour. And according to recent data from Nextdoor, which allows users to search for sitters in their neighborhood, the majority of babysitting posts from parents were about very young children between ages 2 to 5.
I feel like adults are more likely to trust and reach out to older babysitters than they are younger ones. They feel like it's safer for their child.
20-year-old University of Hartford student Laura Martin has been babysitting since she was 13. With her growing list of skills, she says she finds more parents reaching out to her now than ever before.
When I was younger, obviously, I had a lot more restrictions. Like I couldn't drive. Now that I can drive, we can go and explore the towns or do whatever they might want to do. It gives me a little more freedom.
16-year-old high school sophomore Ellie Hughes also has been babysitting since she was 13.
Parents will hire me if their kids are just like napping or asleep, and that can give me time to like do my homework.
Despite her young age, she finds time to take care of her neighbors' kids, some as young as 2, in between school and her busy lacrosse schedule.
What I like most about babysitting is connecting with the kids. A lot of families kind of see me as like an older sister to their kids.
As for what she does with the $15 to $20 she makes an hour,
the cash that I get, normally all the cash I save.
Proof that the reliable young sitter down the street still exists. Christine Romans, NBC News.
Still ahead, talk about fast food. Speed is the name of the game for these waiters in Paris. We'll explain when we check headlines from around the world next, so stay tuned. Welcome back. 4 suspects in Russia's terror attack were arrested over the weekend, and today they appeared in court. All 4 showed signs of being beaten and tortured. That story in just a moment. But first, let's take a quick look around the world. The UN Security Council has passed a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza for the rest of Ramadan. It is also demanding an immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. Unlike previous resolutions, the U.S. didn't veto this one. It chose instead to abstain, a move which angered Israel. The country quickly canceled a planned trip to Washington by a delegation of high-level Israeli officials. Tens of thousands of people in Argentina took to the streets over the weekend to mark the anniversary of the 1976 coup that brought an era of military dictatorship to the country. During that reign, which lasted 7 years, as many as 30,000 people were killed or disappeared. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un joined a military exercise this weekend, linking up with a tank unit that is reportedly the country's first ever armored division. State media says Kim was briefed on the unit's latest tactics and told them to stay sharp and ready for war. And the European Union has opened investigations into U.S. tech giants Apple, Meta, and Google in what appears to be the first test for the EU's new digital competition law. The investigation will zero in on what the EU says are Apple's and Google's App Store rules and Meta's use of personal data. The suspects behind that deadly terrorist attack last week in Moscow making their first appearance in court. The 4 men are accused of killing more than 130 people and injuring many more. U.S. officials confirm ISIS is responsible for the attack. NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley has more.
Tonight, Moscow mourns as eyewitnesses tell the world about the horrors they endured. I honestly thought it was a firecracker, said this survivor, but these crackles, they were like this. They weren't stopping. There was screaming, panic. Gunmen went on a rampage through a concert hall Friday, shooting, throwing bombs, and dousing the building with flammable liquid, witnesses said. At least 137 people were killed. They were just walking and gunning down everyone, methodically in silence, said the survivor. Tonight, Russian President Vladimir Putin saying radical Islamists were to blame. Over the weekend, Putin had blamed Ukraine for trying to help the terrorists escape, something Ukraine denied. ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack. The U.S. says the group is an Afghan-based affiliate called ISIS-K. ISIS-K was responsible for a suicide bombing that killed 13 U.S. troops and more than 180 Afghans during the chaotic American withdrawal from Afghanistan. The 4 accused gunmen in Friday's terror attack, all of them Tajik nationals, were caught by police. 2 of the 4 pled guilty. All looked beaten and battered. Videos of what appear to be brutal interrogations airing on Russian government-backed news channels. This attack has clearly rattled Europe. Italy and France have both raised their domestic security levels.
Okay, Matt Bradley, thanks so much. The gang violence erupting in Haiti's capital is only getting worse and is now being likened to a low-level civil war. As police try to gain back control from the gangs, some neighborhoods are joining the fight. Sky News chief correspondent Stuart Ramsey is in Port-au-Prince with more, but a quick warning, some of this footage is tough to watch.
This city is burning and there seems to be no end, no solution, perhaps even no hope. Neighbourhood after neighbourhood is barricaded off. Some are gang territories, some are communities trying to protect themselves. Absolutely nowhere feels safe. Through the barricades, we were given permission to enter a place called Solino. This community of about 10,000 people has been attacked by 2 separate gangs for a year. They want to take it over. At least 80% of Port-au-Prince has fallen to the gangs, but not here. That's because Salino is protected by armed vigilantes and off-duty policemen who live here and fight together. Every day, this is a struggle to survive. They are surrounded. The armed defenders of Salino, the men who do the fighting, did not want to be identified. Guided by a policeman, we were taken to the various barricades that protect Salino. On the other side is gang territory. It really is that close.
So one gang here, barbecue here, and another one here? Or?
No,
that's all
barbecue. Camp Bel Air. Bel Air, after Bel Air is Cachet du Feu. Cachet du Feu, et puis Iso, Village de Dieu.
All gangs. All gangs.
Yeah.
But not here.
Not. This is police.
The front lines are deserted. Nobody lives here now. It really is a battlefield. Homes burnt out by the gangs have been taken back, but they're uninhabitable.
This place is in a constant battle with gangs who want to take control of it. If they do, if the vigilantes and the police fail to keep a hold of it, then pretty much the whole of Port-au-Prince will belong to the gangs. The atmosphere is really different to other places. It's quiet, but that's because obviously the vigilantes are here. We've just seen police patrolling, but it is a constant gun battles here, and they're constantly having to keep guard of their property.
Inside, the community looks pretty much like anywhere else in Port-au-Prince. But keeping it like this isn't easy. The regular attacks kill men on both sides. It's a turf war, and the vigilantes are holding on. They believe they will win, or rather, they hope they will.
Ce sont les citoyens du quartier accompagnés de la police nationale en général.
It's us citizens, along with the police officers, who are controlling this area. Without them, we wouldn't have what you see here in Salino. And we continue to fight tooth and nail, night and day, to protect the area. We have families who have left the area, but those who remain give their heart and soul for the freedom of the neighbourhood and the freedom of this country.
When the roads of Port-au-Prince go quiet, you know it's dangerous. This is the main road to the international airport. It's the only place guarded by the military, but it's completely closed. The overwhelming sense you get is of a capital city not only cut off from the rest of the country, but cut off from the rest of the world. It's a siege from within, and everyone is a prisoner. Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Port-au-Prince.
Balancing a tray with a croissant, a glass of water, and a coffee cup, hundreds of Parisian waiters rush through the streets in a cafe race that's been revived. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk has this one.
This summer in Paris, the fastest athletes in the world will win Olympic gold and maybe break world records. Which is not exactly what was happening Sunday on the streets of the French capital. But nonetheless, the spirit of competition was in the air. 200 waiters from cafes across the city raced 1.2 miles in uniform, carrying trays with water, an espresso cup, and a croissant, or as the locals call it, a croissant. The rules were simple. No running, only one hand can carry the tray, and the water can't spill. No one wants a soggy croissant. I don't necessarily expect to be first, this waitress says. I don't have the best cardio. The Paris mayor launched the race, calling the French bistro a way of life. And the race has honored it for over a century. Waiters facing off since 1914. Some years carrying wine instead of water, speed walking through the storied streets. In 1929, these two got creative, if also a bit reckless. In recent years, a lack of sponsorship put the race on hold, but with the city's support, it was back. At the end, the winner broke the tape in victory and crumbled in exhaustion. The throngs of Olympic coffee drinkers won't descend upon the city for a few months. Plenty of time to work on that cardio. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
Before we go, we are counting down the days to the solar eclipse on April 8th, and people are so excited about this because it will be fully visible in 15 states. Is yours on the list? NBC's Morgan Chesky has more after the break. Welcome back. Time now for the future of everything. And for Apple, apparently China is in the future despite a drop in sales. And the country is so important for the tech giant that CEO Tim Cook just took a high-profile trip there. NBC's Janice Mackey-Frayer has the details from Beijing.
There appears to be this mutual charm offensive underway, with China wooing foreign investors and companies, letting them know that China is open for business again, while at the same time executives, many of them Americans, are wanting to boost their investment in China at a time when the economy is slowing here and geopolitical tensions are rising. Take Apple, for example. Sales have been declining here and some manufacturing has been shifted away. But CEO Tim Cook has been on a tour aimed at giving the message that Apple is still committed to the Chinese market. Cook helped to open Apple's newest store in Shanghai. It drew a big crowd, with some people camping out overnight. It's Apple's 57th store in China.
Every time I come here, I'm reminded that anything is possible here.
But Apple's sales have been falling here, down 24% year over year. U.S.-China tension is part of it, but it's mainly because of competition from Chinese brands.
The iPhone is more expensive than other phone, so I think the people will choose the more cheap one.
Cook said Apple will continue investing in China, in the supply chain, as well as R&D. He arrived here just as the U.S. Justice Department announced its antitrust investigation on Apple. Cook was also among nearly 36 American CEOs invited to attend a business forum here with top Chinese policymakers. Industries focused on everything from chips to pharmaceuticals. China wants to boost investment, which contradicts the increasingly hostile environment toward foreign business. It's no secret the economy is slowing down here. Money is leaving, and Chinese consumers are spending less, if at all. Why is China's leadership not doing more to improve the economy if its problems are so well known?
That is the giant puzzle, because you would think that they've had all the information in their hands. But it's possible that Xi Jinping doesn't know. It could be that he doesn't care, that he's all about national security and his political position, and he spends most of his days moving chess pieces around the board of different officials and different ministries and the party and the PLA, and worrying about those kinds of things, and not about growth.
Later this week, a group of American CEOs will meet face-to-face with China's President Xi Jinping, a sign of how seriously Beijing is looking to improve conditions for businesses here and confidence in the economy.
Janice Mackey-Frayer, thank you. It might be a few weeks away, but excitement is already growing over a total solar eclipse that's going to be visible in 15 states. NBC's Morgan Chesky has more on the hype.
With just 2 weeks to go, this morning eclipse fever is heating up.
This is going to be the most insane solar eclipse.
Come April 8th, the path of totality will span a massive 115 miles wide, running across 15 states from Texas all the way up to Maine. And there's already a mad scramble to prepare for the cosmic spectacle of a lifetime. Giant festivals and watch parties are planned at parks, museums, and businesses all over the country, especially in places like Kerrville, Texas, which could potentially swell by nearly 10 times its population.
We have everything from T-shirts, souvenir T-shirts. We have these stadium cups.
If you only get one thing for the eclipse, they get a moon pie and some glasses.
Moon pie and some glasses, yep.
Some schools along the path have already canceled in-person learning on April 8th. In Erie County, Pennsylvania, all but one of the public school districts will be closed. And some employers are also giving workers a bit of a break so they can gaze up at the sky. The grocery chain Wegmans has announced some of its stores along the path of totality, like the ones in Rochester, New York, will be closed from 3 to 3:30 p.m., writing, "The opportunity to experience a total solar eclipse comes once in a lifetime, and we don't want our employees to miss out." And when it comes to those ever so crucial eclipse glasses, experts say do some research before you buy.
I do not recommend that you just go on Amazon and type in Eclipse glasses, because there are many counterfeits out there. If you have glasses from a reputable supplier that have that ISO standard on them, they are good.
If you're planning on flying to a location in the path of totality, you'll definitely have some company. Sites like Hopper have seen a surge of bookings. But rest assured, there are still a few deals left.
The best deals are going to be in Jackson, Missouri. Airfare into Nashville is the lowest among all of the destination cities. Hotel prices will be under $100 if you book them now.
All right, looking forward to it. Morgan Chesky, thank you. That does it for us tonight. I'm Valerie Castro. We'll see you tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.